Obito explained during the Five Kage Summit that Hagoromo sealed the Ten Tails inside himself to defeat the monster, and then when he was near death, he split the Ten Tails up and sealed its body, which is the Geto statue, in the moon at this point, not when he initially became his Jinchuriki. Then Kurama explains to Minato that Obito won't die after the Biju is extracted because the Geto statue still remains and has a lot of life force, though he will be unable to move, just like how it was for Hagoromo, indicating that Hagoromo did exactly what Obito did previously, exactly what Obito said previously. He absorbed the whole thing, Geto statue and all, then he pulled out the chakra with the Geto statue still inside, and that's where the Biju come from. Then Hagoromo tells Naruto that he sealed the Ten Tails inside himself and then split up its power later on. So we're 3 for 3. Hagoromo sealed the whole thing inside himself. But then Zetsu says that Hagoromo sealed Kaguya / the Ten Tails inside the Chibaku Tensei, and we see what happens when Naruto and Sasuke do it. It splits the Ten Tails from its chakra, leaving the Geto statue separate from its chakra, which in the war is the Biju, but prior to then, it would just be pure chakra, no form. Okay, and that just straight up contradicts what Hagoromo wrote in the stone tablet, which is how Obito knows all this, by the way. Hagoromo wrote that I sealed it into myself, and then I pulled it out and sealed the Geto statue on the moon. And it contradicts what he told Naruto, and it contradicts what Kurama tells Minato literally based on his own life experience. Like, he literally saw Hagoromo in his bed with the Geto statue inside. That's how he knows this. And it contradicts what Hagoromo told Naruto, also based on his own life experience. So I said the best workaround you can give is that Hagoromo sealed the Ten Tails inside himself and then unsealed it and then used Six Factor Baku Tensei to split it up and separate it from the Geto statue at this point. But that would still contradict what Kurama says to Minato about the Geto statue staying inside.
I think the best way that works is if there's 2 Ten Tails, which isn't consistent with the rest of the lore. I'm just saying to make this work, it's the best way. So there's 2 Ten Tails. The one that was already on Earth, the Divine Tree or whatever, and then the one that Kaguya turned into. So I think the best way to look at it is Hagoromo absorbed the first Ten Tails, and that's when Kaguya turned into the second Ten Tails.
A second Ten Tails? How?
Because there's one already on Earth, and then Kaguya turns into one. So it seems like Kaguya is working with it, and then she fuses or like morphs with the Ten Tails. But I'm saying rather than that, the first Ten Tails goes away, and Kaguya turns into a second one.
But the problem with that, though, is that there's not a second Ten Tails worth of chakra lingering around. There's just the one Ten Tails worth of chakra. And also, the data book and the story literally say that the data book specifically says that Kaguya turned into the Ten Tails in order to fight her sons, and then they sealed that Ten Tails inside of Hagoromo. So the data book contradicts that.
We know that during the Hashirama versus Madara fight that Mito sealed the Nine Tails into herself in the middle of the fight. So I'm saying the same idea sort of applies here.
Yeah, but like the thing with that one though, it's a little bit different. I know what you're saying there, but in that one, it's like it says in the data book in the story that it's Hashirama defeated Kurama basically, and then Mito absorbed Kurama into herself. She sealed it inside herself, so that now Kurama's out of the fight, and that's the end of that.
It sounds like Kurama was already out of the fight then, so Mito didn't have to do that.
Kind of, but I mean, but think about though, like but the thing is, like Hashirama would have to constantly like pay attention to Kurama, even though he beat Kurama, like he beat up the majestic attire Susanoo. He would obviously have to keep paying attention to Kurama, and Madara could obviously use Kurama again. So it still was a smart decision to have Mito absorb it.
Well, I think with this explanation,
that's like basically the extent. I mean,
assuming Hagoromo absorbed the Ten Tails mid-fight, this explains not only how he's able to use Creation of All Things afterwards, which I think makes more sense than just using it on the Geto statue, but also, secondly, it makes sense why, well, first of all, why he has the Geto statue inside him, and there's a second Geto statue seemingly on the moon that he seals. But also, it explains how he gains his power, Six Paths Shibaku Tensei, to seal Kaguya in the first place, rather than him just having it from the beginning.
I mean, I get what you're saying in that respect, and I don't disagree. But at the same time, it's also just like the way they did in the story was Hakurama was just born strong because he was Kaguya's son. You could say your way makes more sense, but again, no, that's not what's actually in the story. Though there is
Yeah.
no second that.
Because the problem here is the fact that he becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. So he has both the Ghetto statue, the body, and the chakra, unsplit up. He doesn't have the nine-tailed beast
Correct.
individually. He has the Ten Tails. So he absorbed the full
Yes,
thing
correct.
into himself, and then afterwards used creation of all things to split the Ten Tails, seemingly when the Ghetto statue was still inside him, which is why he doesn't die. But the Ghetto statue's already on the moon because he used Shibaku Tensei to seal it onto the moon. It became the moon. So, so the anime
Well,
also
again,
contradicts the manga with when this happens because Hagoromo seems to do it way later, whereas the manga does it like
well,
at-
no. So
at
like
the end.
in the anime, the way they do it is that he basically, well, basically there's three versions. So the anime's version is almost like a crossbreed. So it's like the Shikbox Chibaku Tensei split up the chakra from the Ghetto statue. And so he only sealed the chakra inside himself in the anime. He split up that chakra into 9 pieces, but kept them all inside himself, meaning he was just kind of like Naruto, but if he had the full one of each. And then he released all of those after the fact. But that would also contradict what Kurama talked to Minato about because there's no Ghetto statue at all in him in the anime.
So assuming the Ghetto statue was just in Hagoromo, like the whole time, like he died with the Ghetto statue inside him, what happened to it? Because the Ghetto statue seemingly doesn't reincarnate. Is that how the Ghetto statue has chakra? It reincarnated with Hagoromo's chakra?
Oh, well, we'll get to that part after. But
Okay.
no, Hakuromo didn't die with the Ghetto statue because, at least on the stone tablet story that Obito read, he
The one that Zetsu wrote.
sealed it on the moon before he died. So before his death, he took it out of himself and sealed the body on the moon then. So that's when the moon's created. The moon isn't there. Like, while Indra and Ashura are kids and they're growing up, there's no moon in that story. They're just, the moon isn't made yet. The moon isn't made until Hagoromo's about to die.
But that doesn't make sense because Kaguya is sealed inside the moon. That's when the six-pack Chibaku
So
Tensei happens.
essentially in that story, with Kaguya in context, Kaguya is inside Hagoromo until his death, basically.
Oh my God.
Kaguya is not sealed on the moon until the Ghetto statue is. Basically, he was the Kaguya Jinchuriki, essentially, in the original version.
As far as we know, he probably could have split up the Ten Tails within himself after sealing it within his body, or maybe
That's fine. That's not the
Yeah,
issue. I
yeah.
don't
Well, in
think.
the anime, he
Yeah,
does it
but
like outside his body.
but then
Yeah, but then he puts him back into himself.
But then the problem arises when, like, okay, so Sasuke Redsuden touches on the fact that Hagoromo ends up having a chakra illness due to the fact that I believe it could have been caused from him having a lot of chakra in his flowing.
Yeah, it was implied it was because he had the 10 tails, basically.
Yeah,
for
the
so
10
long.
for so long, and then that same illness was then affected within Naruto because I think in one of the Boruto novels it mentions how Naruto is technically like a pseudo 10 tails Jinchuriki.
Yeah, because he has all 9. Well, part of
Yeah.
all 9.
Part of all 9, but still it affected him in the same way it affected Hagoromo.
Yeah, that implies
So-
that he didn't have the 9 individual tailed beasts. He had the 10 tails chakra within himself.
If you pull the 10 tails out of your own body, the same way how Naruto died when, Madara pulled out all 9 Biju, including Kurama from Naruto's body into the Ghetto statue so he can enact plant infinite Tsukiyomi, or not really infinite Tsukiyomi, so he can become a 10 tails Jinchuriki. Wouldn't that also affect Hagoromo in the same way?
Well, but
Despite him being
Obito didn't die because he
That's
still
what
had
Kurama
the
says.
statue inside himself.
Yeah.
So Hagoromo
That's
didn't
what
die for
Kurama
the same
says.
reason.
Because, like Obito, they still had the Ghetto statue. So Hagoromo, up until Zetsu anyway, Hagoromo only took the chakra out of himself at first. He split up the 9 Biju. He took out 10 Tails' chakra out of himself, split up that chakra into 9 beasts. And he's still alive though because he has the Ghetto statue. And then basically 5 minutes before he's like, all right, I'm literally actually going to die now. He took the ghetto statue out, sealed it on the moon, and then died. Basically how it went.
But then, okay, so you said they took the ghetto statue, sealed the 10 tails into it?
So he sealed. So the way it's supposed to be, anyway, is Hakuramo, the 10 tails was just one beast. It wasn't separated from the ghetto statue. It just was the 10 tails. He
Okay.
absorbed that into himself. Then, let's just say when he was 90, I don't know how old he was when he was died, but let's just say he died at 90. When he was 89 and a half, he's like, all right, I'm going to split up the 10 tails, his chakra, into 9 biju, creation of all things magic. Okay. And he extracts that from himself. So now there's just 9 tail beasts, sitting in a circle around him. He gives them the prophecy of the blue-eyed boy, whatever. He still got the ghetto statue inside him, so he's alive. And then he's like, all right, but now I'm gonna die, okay? And then he took out the ghetto statue too and sealed it on the moon, and then he died.
But hang on, because
Yeah.
remember
Basically how
that
it
in
went
the anime, he does creation of all things immediately following the Kaguya fight, before Indra and Asha are born.
So in that case, you could just say he had all 9 biju separately inside himself, and then he took out the chakra. So I guess he had basically 10 things inside himself then in the anime version. He has the ghetto statue and the 9 biju inside himself.
Well, I don't think
before
he
his
sealed
death,
the 9
he takes
biju
all of
inside
them out.
himself. I think he did what Naruto did, to where he's the meeting spot, but he let the 9 biju run free immediately after using creation of all things.
But that's not how it was in the anime. In the anime, he literally puts them back in his body. He shows Hamura them, and he puts them back in his body. He showed him, and then they went back in his body.
We also had to
So-
take
Because otherwise it didn't make sense. Because
Okay.
he had to have seen, like, what happened. Like,
So I got something pulled up here. This is the aftermath, by the way. After he does creation of all things. So this is after the thing. So he has the staff here.
has he talked to Hamura yet?
I don't know. I don't know when that is, but this is episode 464 because you weren't answering my question. It's the very start of the Indra Ashura filler. But without
464 you
this is
said?
also interesting because he is the moon staff, not the sun staff. So without the Sage
hold on, let
Tower,
me just-
yes, there is something I must do. What are you going to do? My journey will have 2 purposes. The first, to find a dwelling place for each of the 9-tailed beasts that I extracted from the 10-tail. I want to make sure they don't fight amongst each other.
So in 462, just go to 1409. You can see he has all 9 Magatama, and he says, I will take care of these tailed beasts. Yeah. And then, a couple seconds later, he absorbs them back into his hand.
basically
Absorbing
him back into
So
his
he
body.
already, in the
Here's
anime,
the
he's already
Karama.
split them up, but he keeps them within himself.
I think that's the problem I'm trying to figure out. It's like, okay, how did
They're
this
so
happen?
small. That's funny.
Where's the 10
I know, dude.
Well, yeah, what happened to the 10 tails afterwards? After like
I'll go back and look.
Yeah, so elder
Um,
brother, I think I'm gonna say by mother. So Kaguya is sealed
Okay,
in
there's
the
the 10
moon
tails
here.
on the ground. Okay, this is actually really funny. So if you go to 1212, they're sealing Kaguya right now. The 10 tails is just separate from her. And
Yeah.
okay, they're touching her. And then she poops out Black Setsu. He's looking up at the sky. Then the Chibaku Tensei is coming up. And right now it's on Kaguya. And then where is the 10 tails?
It's just God.
The
it's
10
just
tails
nothing.
isn't like, it wasn't shown being sealed. So in that case, this would contradict the manga, of course, but you could say in the anime that Hakuramo
Animation
just
mistake.
straight up did seal the 10 tails in himself, like the story's supposed to go.
Or
It's
just an
not
animation
on the
mistake.
moon.
In the anime at 1311 of that same episode, you see the 10 tails not sealed into the tree. Like he goes back to the Swirly Zetsu. I think whatever happened to Swirly
Yeah.
Zetsu's
What's happening
death?
to is the same as
Same
Swirly
with the
Zetsu.
10
the 10 tails. Wait, you can clearly see there are holes within the 10 tails.
I think that's
It
just from
just
the
turned
fight.
into a tree.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 10 tails just became a tree.
yeah.
So where's the ghetto statue?
How did the ghetto statue come to be?
So I'm learning that the anime now has like an extra 5 contradictions.
So we have the Otsutsuki gods. We have the 10 tails, which we now know that the 10 tails can become sentient if, with the right ingredients, can happen, which is something we've never seen in the Naruto series before. We need to figure out, okay, well, what is the 10 tails really? Is it really a seedling? Or is it something more than that?
The Ten Tails is a seedling regardless, and I think there's more to it regardless. So I think the answer is yes to both. But I think, I mean, really the question is what's the chicken or the egg between Ten Tails, Otsutsuki, and stuff. I still currently am of the belief that the Divine Tree slash Ten Tails side was first. It's so weird, but I feel like the Divine Tree was first, then the Otsutsuki, and then the Ten Tails. Because I think the way a fruit purpose in real life is really just as a way to move seeds to a new location. You basically just survival and reproduction. All it is facilitates reproduction. So
Okay,
if
really quick.
the divine tree evolved, just through natural evolution, so that it creates this fruit, and then an Otsutsuki, or rather a person, eats it, they become an Otsutsuki after eating, and according to Ishiki, whether he's real or fake, according to Ishiki, you become an Otsutsuki that way. So if Code eats the fruit, he's now an Otsutsuki. But as we know, at least Kaguya can turn into a Ten Tails, at least by merging with a divine tree. The point is, Otsutsuki can become Ten Tails, and then we know that Ten Tails can become divine trees. So, like, if they eat an Otsutsuki, what do Otsutsuki have in common? They ate the chakra fruit. So it just seems like it's just a method of divine trees reproducing.
It's
To
even
me,
funnier.
it seems like the Otsutsuki are actually the ones being used without knowing it.
Yeah.
It's actually funny that you mentioned like there are ways for like to become an Otsutsuki, because Madara and Obito became pseudo Ten Tails Jinchurikis, sort of like Otsutsuki like humans, to control the Ten Tails, and they kind of take on those characteristics as well.
Yeah, and like the Ten Tails itself is not implied to be as good as the chakra fruit. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother with the fruit. They would just absorb Ten Tails, right? So
Yeah.
it would make sense that if absorbing the Ten Tails, basically the starting point, it's not as good as the fruit. It makes you like a half Otsutsuki, let's say.
Well,
It kind of
but
fits in
I don't know
line.
about that though, Kamui, because at the same time, it seems like they have a decent amount of Tintels, but we also don't know if like Tintels are limited. Like it's possible they could get unlimited fruit through the Tintels, but they only have like 10 seeds, for example. Like if they lose their 10
Well,
Tintels,
I
then
think
they're
the
just done.
reason, I don't think they have like 200 Ten Tails, like a fortress of Ten Tails lined up. I still think the Ten Tails come from an Otsutsuki becoming a Ten Tails. That's why Mobashiki's like,
Yeah.
I don't have one with me. I'm gonna go steal Ishiki's. And then Bado's like, I don't know where this one came from. Whether he knows how they're made or not, he still could not know where that one came from. But it just feels like they're limited on Ten Tails because it requires an Otsutsuki in the first place. That's just my feeling. At least according to Boruto, it's implied. Obviously, the Ten Tails didn't eat an Otsutsuki, but Code basically gave it some level of Otsutsuki essence. Hypothetically, if Kawaki had claw marks, the same thing might have applied to him too. The point, it's because they're kind of like described as being on the way to divine trees, but they're not quite there. And this in between stage is just something new. I mean, it's still weird because, like, hypothetically, though, if a Ten Tails just ate only the leg of an Otsutsuki, not the whole thing, what happens? Like, does the Ten Tails do the same thing? Or, like, what happens? I don't know. Like, I feel like it's weird that this is the first time. I don't know. It's weird. Don't think it's weird. In reference to the fact that Code didn't want to invade the Leaf Village because Ada and Damon were there, beyond the fact that he just literally did it in the time skip and it didn't matter, like, if Code just didn't do the whole split up the Ten Tails thing and he just immediately went to the Leaf Village with the Ten Tails, or actually, no, Code just could just. Code was strong enough he could literally teleport back to the Leaf Village, by the way, because Code has claw marks near the village. It's gonna be way sooner than the three. Like, it's gonna be way faster than it's gonna take Ada and Damon to get to the Leaf Village from Boro's freaking hideout across the world. Okay, so Code could have just gone there, grabbed. He also knows Boruto's 100% Otsutsuki now, so there's no point to wait on Boruto. He literally could have just teleported there, grabbed a weak off guard Boruto, left and fed him to the Ten Tails, and just won. He didn't need to split up the Ten Tails for any reason. In fact, what was the purpose of splitting up the Ten-Tails? Because it wasn't to distract Aiden and Damon, because he didn't want to invade, period, with them around, and then he just did anyway. There was no point to the clock ride.
Well, we already know that code is not the brightest tool in the shed.
So
I mean,
so
like, this is just stupid.
I mean, since we're still on the
Oh
Ten-Tails,
no, code's pretty stupid.
okay, so in the anime, we see the Ten-Tails is not a part of Kaguya. Kaguya gets sealed, that becomes the moon. The Ten-Tails is still on Earth, it withers away like we were showing earlier. So it still has the chakra inside
Which
it,
is
so
so
again,
weird.
I ask, why does it wither away? But okay, so it withered away, the tree, like, goes down, Infinite Tsukiyomi stops. Why does Hagoromo split it up? Like, it's withered. Why is he even giving it the time of day anymore in the first place? Like, he split, so he also, the chakra's in it. Why does it wither? Both of these questions contradict each other, and I'm confused on both of them at the same time.
Yeah, like, I mean, you could say maybe, like, similar to how when Naruto and Sasuke undo the Infinite Tsukuyomi, the tree just withers and the Zetsu withers.
Like, Kaguya was sealed the first time, and the Infinite Tsukuyomi immediately just stops. The second time, that doesn't happen. They have to do the rat hand seal. Hagoromo never did that. They skipped that step. It just immediately happened when Kaguya was sealed. And again, in this case, the Ten-Tails is just an entity on its own. Like, again, in the anime, that divine tree was here before Kaguya. So it's not like it was relying on Kaguya to be unsealed, to be around, to function. It was already autonomously just absorbing people whenever they got close. Seemingly turning them into Zetsu, by the way. Without the army, which again goes back to the spore idea. But here, it's withering away because, seemingly, Kaguya is sealed. But again, it's withering away, but it still has Ten-Tails chakra, but it's not rampaging anymore because it's withered away. So, again, why does Hagoromo... Can Hagoromo sense the chakra inside of it? Is it like you were saying with the Hashirama Madara fight? Is it that he's afraid in the future it might become activated again? It's like better safe than sorry. But either way, it's definitely at no point does this Ten-Tails ever go near the moon, and Kaguya was always in the moon, never in Hagoromo.
Yeah, no. So the other thing that's weird though is, so like I said, even if Hagoromo did the rat sign off screen or whatever, the people in the Infinite Tsukuyomi were attached to the Ten-Tails' legs, because that's where they got unwrapped from. The Ten-Tails is freaking smashing his legs everywhere, and these people just survived, first of all. And that's not how the Infinite Tsukuyomi works. Like, you don't, it doesn't do, like, it's so backwards. Like, you don't just, like, the reason, I mean, also, I didn't think about this. Yeah, this also contradicts Zetsu, the whole white Zetsu backstory, because the point was, oh my god. So Kaguya does Infinite Tsukuyomi, then she turns into the Ten-Tails. Those people are in the Ten-Tails. That's why Zetsu could pull White Zetsu out of the ghetto statue, because they were always inside the Ten-Tails. They just were in there. But Hagoromo frees them in the filler. So why are there Zetsu left over? There shouldn't be any Zetsu in that case.
No, I don't think that's fair to say, because again, that divine tree has been around for seemingly 3,000 plus years, if we go based on the minimum amount of what they say. So several millennia. So 3,000 years. So it's probable that it's already completed turning some people into White Zetsu.
Yeah, but he said these people were from Kaguya's previous Infinite Tsukuyomi.
I mean, it's possible that like some people turn quicker than others.
Yeah, but Hagoromo freed them all.
But if they're already a Zetsu, then it doesn't matter.
Then they would just be in plain sight. They wouldn't be in the Ten-Tails.
They could just go back into the Ten-Tails. What do you want me to say? Or maybe once you turn into a Zetsu, you're stored inside of the Ten-Tails. Which that's not how it's depicted in the manga, I know, but it's still a possibility.
I mean, yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, like I said, we found plenty of contradictions. I'm not gonna make this the biggest one, the hard one, but no, it's just, yeah, like the Ten-Tails shrivels up, okay? So like the divine tree, as in, why does it do that? So like hypothetically in the war, could Naruto and Sasuke, I guess they didn't have the Rinnegan yet. But okay, when Obito was like decided to be a good guy again, could Obito have just like made the rat hand sign and just like being Madara? He just shrivels up. That's all it took. If so, then why didn't Hagoromo tell Naruto and Sasuke this when they were awakened with their powers? Like, hey, by the way, just do the rat sign. Madara will shrivel up.
Yeah, like this should have worked on Kaguya herself, apparently. Like you don't have to touch her at all. Just do the rat hand sign. And like keep in mind, this is when they already have both hands. I guess they needed both the Rinnegan power.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would have been that easy. Like,
yeah. Well, no, they did need to combine because they had the Rinnegan power in one and then the Tail Beast in the other.
Yeah. But now you could say this doesn't really make any sense, but you could say if for the anime version, because Kaguya was sealed, since she's like controlling the 10 tails, that chakra just withered away, and so it like turned back into a tree without Kaguya controlling it. But the divine tree also just wasn't being a divine tree anymore, really. It was just actually, I think in the filler, Hagoromo said it was still absorbing chakra or something. I don't know.
It's also weird how it starts in stage 2 instead of the like conch shell version, stage 1. It just jumps straight from tree to stage 2 or 3, whichever one this is. Like we don't see the 3, one from the war, unless the one from the war is like the imperfected stage 0 technical version because it didn't have all 9 tailed beasts inside it.
Well, that's what in the work that seems to be what's implied is that's just because it doesn't have like it's because it's weaker at the time.
But I disagree because like
this one
in
obviously
the 5 Kage Summit, the silhouette looks like the one from the war. The conch shell
it looks
version.
like that. Well, I think that was just a retcon. I think that was Kishimoto changing his mind, but I think he wanted the 10 tails to look like that, and then he kind of just made the other version, but. So that's headcanon. I don't know. But anyway,
but another thing with this,
maybe Hagoromo drew that on the stone tablet.
So first of all, I guess you could just argue Hagoromo has this knowledge anyways, but it's still funny that Hagoromo has the knowledge that you need the Rinnegan and Tailed Beast powers combined to do the rat hand sign to stop the infant Tsugomi. But in this version, it just stops all on its own. Like to our knowledge, Hagoromo doesn't do the rat hand sign. But even then, he takes in the 10 tails and then does the creation of all things after this. So he only has the Rinnegan here. He doesn't have the Tail Beast powers to stop the infant Tsugomi, even if he wanted to do it on his own anyways, unless you want to argue the thing that I was arguing, to where he did absorb the first 10 tails mid-battle, and then Kaguya was the second one. So it's more consistent.
So wait, real quick. Okay, we gotta look at this scene. Like, does he like reference like? Hold on. So he's just showing him. I split the 10 tails into 9 souls. No, you didn't. The 10 tails is a tree, and the tree's still there. You're standing next to the tree. Is that why it shriveled up? Like, did Hagoromo just run over there and like we don't see his body on screen, and he's actually just splitting it up, and that's why it's shriveling up?
No, it's shriveling up when Hagoromo and Hamura are still in the air, actively sealing Kaguya. Like the moon is actively forming as it's shriveling up.
See, the thing I mean, this is why I say this is filler, and like we shouldn't take this into account because there's no ghetto statue. The 10 tails is a tree. That's its body in this version. I don't know which is this is probably a bigger contradiction than the manga situation, which is still a problem, but
like it's not like the ghetto statue's a manga only thing. It's been in the anime for hundreds of episodes up to this point already.
Literally. In fact, I think Setsu probably mentions the ghetto statue again when he's like talking to Naruto and Sasuke. He probably says it again. So I mean, just
weird.
Doesn't make sense. Like the whole thing is just the anime is even weirder. But even going back to the manga one, it's like okay, like the whole like it's like the 6-part Shibaku Tensei, like, I mean, I'm just trying to think here.
This is funny. So, Zetsu says...
the only way it worked is that Hagoromo used it on the ghetto statue itself and not the actual 10 tails. Like, he sealed the ghetto statue and that's it. wouldn't have happened if Obito didn't pull out the 10 tails and turn it into a divine tree and then Madara suck it back in. Like if Madara hypothetically just like skipped over Obito. Obito just Rene rebirths him when Madara tried to the first time. And then Madara just absorbs the 10 tails and then he does the infinite Tsukuyomi. He never makes a divine tree. Does Madara like does it work? Like just no divine tree?
The 10 tails itself, or I guess the divine tree, can just do the infinite Tsukuyomi. Obito was going to have it do the infinite Tsukuyomi, not
Okay, that's
Obito.
perfect. That's exactly what I was going to talk about. That's like, wait, you just that shouldn't be a thing.
Stupid, I don't know.
It doesn't even make sense what Obito did because when Obito pulled the 10 tails out of himself, the thing was huge. Like he pulled out like the 10 tail, and it turned into a big divine tree.
Bro, that's actually further evidence that there's two 10 tails. That's probably what Kaguya did. She spit out the 10 tails, and then she had the 10 tails inside of her, just like Obito.
Like, bro, like so, like the one at the beginning of the war is actually just two 10 tails fused together. Obito unfused it, and then Madara had a partial 10 tails. He only had one of them, and he had to take the other one back. But if that's the case, why was Madara so much stronger than Obito when Obito had two 10 tails and one? Like,
well, maybe that's why
What?
the first form of 10 tails looks like a conch shell. It's actually the mesh, like the melting together of the two different 10 tails makes that form.
No, but it goes into stage 3 before Obito absorbs it.
Right.
That makes sense, bro. Like, these are the things I would fix about the war arc. It's just these small things that don't make sense. Like, you know.
Bro, what's crazy about this? These Rinnegan don't even have Madatames in them. They're just the bait, like they're Pain's Rinnegans.
They're literally just, yeah, like Nagato could have done this the whole time, apparently.